Hi. Today we're going to focus on problems like this. We have 2/3 equals x over 9, and we need to figure out what x is. Well, before we do that, I want to take a look at what happens when we multiply fractions. Let's stick with the 2/3. We have 2/3 times 2/2, like that. You all know how to multiply fractions by now. We multiply straight across the numerator and the denominator, and we end up with 4/6. So far, so good. Now let's stick with the 2/3, but let's do a different fraction this time. Let's do 5/5. In 5/5, we have 10 over 15, right? 5 times 2 is 10, 3 times 5 is 15. Okay, let's do one more just for fun. Again, we'll stick with the 2/3. This time, let's do 7/7. Of course, we have 14 over 21. So we multiplied each fraction by a different fraction, and we got a different answer for each, as we would expect to do. But, as I look at this, I realize that each one of these can be simplified, can't they? Well, let's think about what can we divide out of both the numerator and the denominator for each of these fractions to simplify them a little bit. Well, in 4/6, they're both even numbers, so we can start with 2. If we divide a 2 out of each, we end up with 2 over 3. And 10 over 15, those are both multiples of 5. So we can divide a 5 out of each of those, and we end up with 2 over 3. And 14 over 21, well, those are both multiples of 7. We can divide a 7 out of each of those, and we will end up with 2 over 3. Well, now, what in the world is going on here? We started with the same fraction. We multiplied different fractions, and after simplifying, we end up with the exact same fraction for each of these. And it just so happens to be the same fraction that we started with. Now, I'm sure some of you are smart enough to look at this and realize what is going on here. You're saying, well, Mr. Tyler, I know that 2 over 2 is the same thing as 1, because 2 divided by 2 is 1. And you're right, it is. So 2 over 2 is just another way of writing the number 1. And 5 over 5, clearly the same thing is going on. 5 divided by 5 is 1. And 7 over 7, same thing. 7 divided by 7 is 1. And as we all know, any number you divide by 1 is going to equal the number you started with. 2/3 divided by 2/2 is the same thing as 2/3 divided by 1. And after simplifying, you get back to 2/3. So we're not actually multiplying these numbers by different numbers. We're multiplying all these numbers by 1. We're just representing one a slightly different way in each case. So let's go back to our original problem. 2/3 equals x over 9. And what in the world could x be? Well, if these are going to be equal, the only way they could be equal is if we're multiplying by 1 to begin with. So 2/3 times 1 is going to equal x over 9, but that 1 has to be represented slightly different. Well, 3 and 5 is 15, and 2 and 5 is 10. Then 3 and something is going to be 9. As I'm sure you were all yelling at me already, obviously 3 times 3 equals 9. Well, to make this fraction equal to a 1, that top number also has to be 3. And what's 2 times 3? Exactly. 2 times 3 is 6. And as we can see now, x equals 6 in this case. So keep that in mind every time you're multiplying fractions, every time you see it set up where the fraction equals some number, and all you have is the bottom number, in order for those to be equal, you have to multiply that original fraction by 1. It's just all depends how that 1 is represented. It could be represented a number of different ways, like we see here. So this 2/3 to equal something over 30, that 1 has to be represented as 10 over 10, because 10 times 3 is 30, which means in this case, x would equal 20. All right? Thank you.